How's it going, everybody? Well, it's the end of another year, the end of 2025, so it's time for another year-end 10 video. This one is, of course, on the theme of
Boxes with Jobs.
And this is the second video of the year-end 10 series. The first one was a countdown to top 10 box modes, and you can watch that video at this link. I'll also have that link too in the description. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about what Boxes with Jobs is, what makes this type of figure interesting. I'll talk about each figure that's part of the 10 on this list, and most of these have already appeared in some other review video. For those that haven't received a box grade yet, they're going to get one today. So let's introduce the lineup here. Alright, so this is the lineup for this year's year-end 10. We're looking at Blackwing, we're looking at Water Cannon, we have Overkill, Thunder, Firepower, Blue Armor, Overload, Painkiller, Fire Thrash, and last but not least, Jojobs. Most of the figures that made the cut for this video are part of a 3-pack set, that being the Air Force team and the Firefighter heroes. In both cases, they're repaints of existing molds that were repurposed on theme of a particular job, with their own badges and custom box chargers. It's been a couple of years since 52 Toys has done one of these sets, and I hope they do more. And as an extra bonus, I'm going to do an unboxing and full review of Real Steel. We'll get back to him in just a little bit. So starting off, let's talk about what counts as a box with a job. To me, it's a beast box that's been repainted or leveled up from an existing character to one that has a job. In most cases, the figure's decorated with a color scheme that suits the occupation, and extra graphic styling such as a badge, racing number, that sort of thing that fully forms it as having an actual job. This list does not include 52 Toys machine cubes that inherently have some type of job given the character, such as AMTS vehicles, any figure that's an automaton like Wandering Earth robots, or, I hate to say it, even Santa Claus. Nobody hired that guy, and the essence of his being goes a lot deeper than wearing a uniform, so he doesn't actually have a quote-unquote job. Being Santa is who he is. So yeah, no straight repaints from pop culture or fictional characters. The Monkey King wouldn't make the cut for the same reason. The one figure on this list, or at least the one that's a bonus featured figure that doesn't have a uniform per se, is Real Steel. But there is a sports fashion. I mean, if you put gloves on a kangaroo, then that's its job. We'll talk about that a bit more later in this review. Also, I'll point out real quick that many boxes with jobs come with a custom box charger, and most of the figures in this list actually do. The reason why they might come with a custom box charger is oftentimes they're special or limited edition figures. That's definitely not a prerequisite for being a box with a job, but more often than not, you'll find that's the case. So before we go down the list, let's talk about all the job categories. First thing I'll say is boxes with jobs is what I call these. That's not an official category, it's my interpretation of what 52 Toys is doing with these repaints, so it's my ball to run with. Across the entire history of the Beast Box line, these 6 categories are what I came up with. You have aeronautics, law enforcement, fire and rescue, first aid or paramedics, sports, and technology. All of these categories are represented in this year-end 10 list. So let's clear these guys out of the way and we'll start going down the list. So for Painkiller and Blue Armor, I actually reviewed these guys a couple of months ago. You can see the full review right here, and I'll link to it in the description. So when I reviewed them at the time, in the interest of doing a quick review, particularly since these figures are several years old, I hadn't given them a box grade. I do take requests, and someone did ask me to do a box grade, so we're going to give them a go real quick. Before we do, I want to touch on some figure details here. So recapping that review that I did on these guys real quick, I'm not going to go into great detail here. I just love the graphic styling on these figures, and the fact that they have kind of a little bit of a theme even without the box with a job. So in the case of these figures, they're sort of patterned off of old-timey 10 Toys with the wind-up key, where basically you'd turn the key and the little legs would move or whatever the mechanics are for that particular toy. And as far as their job, that's something that's interesting here. You got a lot of graphic styling on these. Blue Armor is an armored SWAT team member. It's got this riveted armor plating here. It's real nice. Got that badge here, BB SWAT. So he may be the only SWAT team member in the entire Beast Box line. Got some bullet hole graphics in the whole bit. And overall, it's just a really charming little figure design. Even comes with a little para-weapon accessory here. So that's kind of like a frog with a gun barrel sticking out of its mouth. Yeah, and you know, enough holes on it so that you can attach it wherever you want. And it's mostly the same for Painkiller. Obviously, one here is a rhino. This one is a hippopotamus. This one comes with a paraweapon that's one of those little birds that picks ticks and lice and stuff like that off of this type of animal. Got a lot of great design cues for like a first aid kit, you know, emergency here. And the theme of this character with its name, Painkiller, I love that double entendre. That's just really funny to me. That is 5.2 Toys really showcasing their sense of humor. And their designers have an awesome sense of humor, so really love that. But there again, if you want to see the full review, I do have that link to in the description. In the meantime, we're going to go ahead and give these guys a box grade. In case you don't know, this is my rating system of 6 categories of 5 points each for a total score of up to 30 points. I've always maintained that just that little enhancement of adding a badge or a color scheme, one theme of a box with a job, really adds something to the character. And between these two, there's just something really funny to me about animals that are deadly in real life performing public service. 5 out of 5. Both of these figures are accessorized with the wind-up keys, including paraweapons and a saddlebag storage. 4 out of 5. Transformation is real easy and straightforward. In my mind, the box mode looks and functions sort of like a crate, but being early figures, the box mode is essentially a lumpy folded-up figure with exposed parts. 2 out of 5. Again, being very early designs patterned after what are large, bulky animals, there isn't a whole lot to go on here. The heads and legs barely move, but they do have some nice extra bit of articulation in their heads. Blue armor in particular with its mouth, horns, and eyes. 3 out of 5 for blue armor and 2 out of 5 for Painkiller. The plastic and joints of these is fine. Obviously, they're not very sophisticated in comparison with more modern releases, but I've had mine for quite a while and I can tell you they were built to last. 3 out of 5. I think a kid's imagination would get a lot more out of these, but as a posable collectible action figure, they're pretty limited. The redecos do add something extra and a little more interesting to me though. 3 out of 5. And that brings the box grade total to 20 out of 30 for Blue Armor and 19 out of 30 for Painkiller. But we haven't touched on what makes Painkiller extra special. 5.2 Toys designers have a great sense of humor, and for a long time, a lot of their action figures were inherently funny and quirky. They've gotten away from that somewhat as their figure designs have steadily become more sophisticated, and I wish they'd get back to the goofiness. Having said that, I do think Painkiller is above and beyond as a character study. There's something particularly funny about a hippo being decked out as a first aid responder, and the double entendre with its namesake is absolutely hilarious to me. So for the first time ever, I'm breaking my box grade rating system and awarding a bonus point to Painkiller's character for a score of 6 out of 5 for a total score of 20 out of 30. Alright, so moving on, we're going to bring in the Air Force team and the firefighter heroes. I gave both of these sets a full review, and I'll have links to these in the description. So what I can say about both of these sets is this is 2 times that 5.2 Toys has released recolors of existing figure molds with, you know, kind of a color scheme based on a box with a job, and they released them both as a 3-pack. So in a lot of cases, if you were looking for a particular figure mold, but maybe that one's a little harder to find, it may have gone off market or something like that, it's not available at retail or just whatever, there is a little added value, plus the fact that you get something that's on theme with something that's beyond just the beast that turns into a box. In all cases, I love the color schemes that they did. In the case of Fire Thrash and Firepower here, you've got 2 creatures that are decked out in kind of fire engine colors. That crimson, red, black, and white just really pops, I think. All of these figures have really interesting gimmicks to them. And in the case of Water Cannon here, you have this cannon accessory that's essentially its fire hose. Plus this one is decked out in a little firefighter costume. Plus he has his little buddy baby bear, you know, that can ride inside him. Lots of cool, interesting gimmicks for these. Yeah, in the case of Thunder here, it has a ton of articulation and whatnot, but it also has this head crest that can really change its dynamic and just kind of its overall look and whatever. So Inquisitive Bird, Angry Bird. So there's something interesting to offer for both of these sets for sure. And yeah, in the case of the Air Force team, they've got their own custom little crest there. And this one is BBAB. Maybe that stands for Beast Box Air Battalion, I don't know. And of course, in the case of the firefighter team, they have their own insignia here, BBFD. So Beast Box Fire Department, I suppose. But there again, I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time on these figures because I've already covered them in the reviews. But as part of the overall list for this year-end 10 video, I definitely wanted to touch on each one of these figures. That being the case, we're going to move on to the next round. And that is Overkill. Same goes for this guy. This was actually one of my earliest reviews. I did this one way back in 2023, I think. And the crab mold on its own is one of the best Beast Box figure designs in the entire line, in my opinion. I've actually got, I've got 3 of these. One of them is still in a box and hasn't been unpacked yet. But overall, it's a really cool, fun, versatile design. Has tons of little gimmicks on it. You know, there's a female and male crab variant. The female can ride on top of the male crab and act as sort of like a weapons platform. Essentially, you got the little Gatling gun here. Got interesting little widgets and gimmicks here. So there's a, I don't know, kind of a rail gun in the bottom here that kind of folds up and tucks under its body cavity. And you got this opening and closing jaw here. All kinds of cool things like this antenna that raises and lowers. You got a little hatch here so you could put a 1-inch minifigure inside there if you want. Takes a little adjustment, but he'll basically fit right in there. At least the female crab variant comes with these weapon armaments, and they do tuck away. You got weapon storage in its box mode. So it just has overall a ton of cool features, but I also really dig the styling of it. You know, like I said, as far as a racing figure. Doesn't have a badge per se, but it definitely has some racing stripes, and it does say 52 Toys Racing Team on here. And as far as this particular figure, this was actually a VIP release, and VIP, in case you don't know, is, I guess now was a program. It sounds like 52 Toys isn't going to be doing that anymore. But essentially what it was is an annual program where they would send you paid, I don't know, a couple $100 or whatever the number was per year, and they would send you a certain amount of figures throughout the year, new releases and that kind of thing, and then also a bonus figure custom made for that particular year. And whichever year it was that Overkill came out, this was the special release. I was not part of that program that year, but you can find online some enterprising individuals who get a hold of these and resell them for a premium price. But we're not slowing down with this year-end 10 list, and we're going to move on to an unboxing for this figure. And unfortunately, I do not have a trusty Red Devil handy, so I've got to improvise here. Same old deal, it's the sticker tab on the top here. Pop that open. Before we get it open, let's take a look at the package here. It is a pretty nice looking box. They've got it labeled here as Fighting Real Steel. So yeah, he's definitely a boxer. Got these cool flame graphics and whatever. This is all in foil stamping here. Kind of a glossy finish all the way around. And on the back here, we've got some more details about this figure. So this is a variant of the original release. That's Ricochet BB-35. This is BB-35RS Real Steel. Got some details about its box mode, its beast mode, all that kind of thing. And some extra accessories that it comes with. And this is another X2R design. And this figure came out a couple of years ago. It might be one of the earliest instances where they started to change their branding, you know, in particular their Beast Box logo. Not totally sure about that, but that seems about right for the time frame. And I should also say, I've had this figure a little bit embarrassingly for a year and a half, and I'm just now getting it out of the box, so. And this might actually be the only review you're going to see of Real Steel on YouTube, so if that's the case, then that's just me, I guess. Alright, so inside the box you got transformation instructions, got some catalog stuff, and a collector card. And I need to take a look at this. This is pretty neat. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So yeah, it's got some holographic stamping on here. Very nice artwork of this figure. And on the back here, yep, this is from a while back. So we actually have a character bio here. And for the character bio here, looks like we got decent defense. It's got maybe marginal intelligence and speed, top courage, and top strength. So Real Steel is a real strong character, I guess. And what we're saying about this character is, through the dark tunnel into the open, dazzling flashlight and deafening cheer almost made Real Steel feel dizzy. It has given everything it's got from the street to the stage. With costly entry ticket in hands, the pride and glory is only one step away. It bumps its fists against each other and quietly whispered to itself, "Hell, it's about time." Real Steel comes from the street, and he's made it into the ring finally. That is funny. I really miss these character bios. They're not doing that anymore, unfortunately, but I've always gotten a kick out of them. It just really adds something pretty charming to each Beast Box character. But anyways, moving on. This particular figure comes with a lot of stuff. Holy cow. So you got the figure here, and it's decked out in some transparent black plastic, some black and gold accents. Very nicely done figure. Got some little shades on here. Interestingly enough, its eyes are unpainted, but they're transparent. It seems like the head might be hollow, but it doesn't look like it has a light piping effect, or at least not one that I can pick up real easily. But it does have a little bit of reflection in there, so that is kind of cool looking. Yeah, you got an opening and closing mouth. I'm gonna get those shades back on there. And like I was saying, it comes with a lot of extra stuff here. So you got a punching bag, nice little flame details on here. This thing's got some real heft to it. Man, look at that. That is interesting, this little gold carrying piece. I don't know why they have this separate, but it is actually part of its transformation. So that just clips on the back there like that. What else have we got here? These little punching sticks for, that's basically like a martial arts kind of thing. And you got a little Joey. It's custom box charger, very beautiful. I love this smoky black here with the gold highlights on the front here. Very cool looking graphic. Opens and closes just like that. And we got a range of boxing gloves. For whatever reason, they decided to give this guy 3 different types of boxing gloves. So you got the transparent black here, you got gold of course, you got red to match the punching bag. All right, let's clear some stuff out of the way here and talk about some figure details. So first thing I'll say is 5-2 Toys absolutely knocked it out of the park with the kangaroo mold. Take everything you know about kangaroos, real life and in popular culture, and 5-2 Toys managed to include all of that into this figure seamlessly. And this is a perfect example of what's so great about Beast Boxes. In many ways, you don't even really need a character bio because the characteristics of the actual real life animal that they have studied and put into the figure design are really what goes into the product. So you kind of already know what this critter is all about, maybe even before you get it out of the box, but definitely when you start picking it up and filling around with it. And I'll tell you, I really like Ricochet. I would say Real Steel is really a plussed up version of that figure. So basically, yeah, you can't go wrong with either one. But yeah, just the overall styling on this particular figure is excellent. I love these transparent black panels here. Got some beautiful black, you got some silver and gray accents here. A lot of gold on it. It's just a really regal looking, very nicely designed figure. Got little flame details and stuff like that on here. And he is a fighting character. You got that nice fighting graphic on here. Love these colored weapons pods. At least that's what I think these are. It's very cool. Pull them out to the side there. Yeah. All around, it's just a beautifully designed figure. And of course, you got your little Joey here. This little figure does come with a bit of articulation. It's a tiny little figure, of course, but it does actually have some movable parts. So as you can see, you can tilt the head a little bit. Got a little bit of movement in the legs and a little bit in the tail. And most of that is really so it can curl up and fold up inside the pouch. And this is what that looks like. Fits in there perfect. So there again, on theme of a boxing kangaroo. It's got some boxing gloves here. I'm going to go with these red ones just offset from all this gold and black. And the great thing about these boxing gloves is that they do have an indicator on here to tell you which one goes on which paw. So left glove, that's going on the left paw, of course. So yeah, the trick is basically you want to line up the holes on these gloves with this pivot joint here on the paw. And of course the thumb is going to need to be tucked in like it naturally would be. And just like that, you got a boxing kangaroo. This is awesome. Put him up, pal. Come on, put him up. So you can actually take your little Joey out and make him a spectator if you want. And you got some spare gloves in case you want to switch it up. Tons of options with this figure, of course. I really love this figure design. This is just a really well executed Beast Box. Kind of a shame that I've waited 1.5 years to get this out of the box, but oh well. Here we are, and I'm glad I did. This is a fun little set. But moving on with this review, it's time to give Real Steel a box grade. Like I said before, the kangaroo mold speaks for itself. It has everything. The boxing joke gimmick, great articulation, spot-on anatomy, and even a little Joey that fits in its pouch. And 5-2 Toys managed to include everything you know about kangaroos into this figure seamlessly. They have an uncanny knack for taking the characteristics of a given animal and putting that into a figure design, and Real Steel is a perfect example of what makes a great character out of a robot animal for an easy score of 5 out of 5. Real Steel is a limited release and effectively a deluxe version of the original. With its Joey shades, extra boxing gloves, awesome looking custom box charger, and that's an easy 5 out of 5. Transformation, which I'm not demoing today of course, to keep focus on the theme of boxes with jobs is not terribly difficult. I wouldn't describe it as totally intuitive, but you could definitely make sense of where the parts should logically go, and it comes together as a very sturdy, well-formed cube for a score of 4 out of 5. Articulation is very good for this figure. It has a lot of great head and neck mobility as well as its arms, and its legs will let you pose in almost any way you need it to. The only slight downside is inherent to kangaroo anatomy. The arms are small and have limited reach, so in real life kangaroos will attack with their hind legs, and they get enough reach to punch by balancing on their tail, which Real Steel can't quite do. If he could, that would have knocked this figure out of the park. 4 out of 5. This is a more modern design with fairly high quality production. Nothing feels loose or janky, the boxing gloves and shades snap on real nice, and it has some really nice graphic applications for a score of 5 out of 5. Real Steel has everything you could want from a robot kangaroo. It has great styling, it's fun to fiddle around with and transform, and it looks great on a shelf. 5 out of 5. And that brings the box grade total to 28 out of 30. Alright, so we're going to move into the final phase of this review, and that's this monkey boy computer nerd, Jojobs. So a little bit of background on this figure. This one's actually one of the first 5 that I bought when I started collecting Beast boxes, and I really like it. I actually consider this one of my prized possessions. It's just one of those figures that left so much of an impression on me that it really kind of drew me into this line. I love 5.2 Toys' design sensibilities and just kind of the quirkiness and silliness that they put into their figures, so that really appealed to me and I just kept right on collecting. For however many Beast boxes I have in my collection, blame it on Jojobs, to a large degree. There were some others that pulled me in for sure. This is one that I've been wanting to review for a long time, and just with this year-end 10 series, this year being on the theme of boxes with jobs, it just seemed like the perfect opportunity to get to this guy finally. So as you can see, it comes with a lot of little accessories, and the cool thing with all these accessories and its custom box charger is they're really all integral to this particular character. So you got the little VR shades here, you got a keyboard, and you got a mouse, and both of these pieces are custom for this figure. There's no other Beast box or any other figure that has these two with it. And the cool thing, like I said, is it's actually integral to this figure. The box charger itself doubles as a computer monitor, being that this figure can transform into a 2-inch cube. It can actually fold itself up inside its box, so it becomes part of the computer. But there's also some other interesting things that these accessories do. So the mouse can be worn just like that. And the keyboard itself splits in half. And just like that, Jojobs can wear them on his forearms. And of course he can wear his little VR glasses. Now, obviously some other JoJo figures do have this particular piece, but being that this is on the theme of computers, to me this one seems like it should be VR glasses. They snap on just like that, and you're ready to compute. Or get some programming done, or whatever a Jojobs is going to do. He's a gorilla, so he's going to do whatever he wants to do. There again, keyboard and mouse. Another thing I really like about this figure is it has a ton of Easter eggs all over it that are specific to computing and information technology. So you got the 01 there on the forearms, of course. You got debug, hello world on its knuckles. That's hilarious. And you got a little bit of JavaScript statements on here. So you've got if and then printed on its upper back here. Just, yeah, tons of Easter eggs all over this thing. Beautiful paint job too. I love the color scheme on this figure. And again, not just with the accessories, but the actual color scheme itself. There's no other Beast box like this one. So the color scheme itself is patterned after 80s and 90s era personal computers, which were often derided as quote-unquote beige boxes. And that's what they were. I mean, you walk into any given office, any cubicle farm, you name it, inside of an office setting, and you're going to see a sea of beige-colored computers that were just about exactly this color scheme. This particular kind of light warm gray or whatever, but then it has a lot of other beautiful accents that really makes it not just bland like a regular PC computer. So you got some French grays in here, you got some neutral kind of cooler grays, you got some white highlights on here. These are painted on. And of course you have neon color too, kind of offsetting it with that accent color. So on every level, this is a beautifully executed figure. And I hope nothing ever happens to mine because I need this in my collection to the end of my days, basically. I'm never going to let this thing go. Also, another Easter egg on this figure is it's of course named after one of the most well-known founders of Apple. And he's a technology visionary. We all know him. He's Steve Jobs. So that's where you get the name Jojobs. So again, like I said, I'm never going to let this thing go. I do hope that 5.2 Toys does a Jojobs 2.0 based on the new mold Neo Geo. I don't know how they could even match what they accomplished with this particular figure, because like I said, I think it's pretty much perfectly executed on every level for what this particular figure is. It's just a bunch of guys who created a little particular interactive figure and added a bunch of quirks to it that really makes this figure shine for its particular themes. So a very well done figure. I don't know what else I can say about it. I just really happen to love this particular piece. But we need to move on to the final phase of this review. Now it's time to give this code monkey a box grade. Even the standard release JoJo on its own is a great character and a caricature of a gorilla. This one just happens to be on the theme of information technology, so it's a level above and beyond that. 5 out of 5. Jojobs comes with a couple of really neat little accessories that are completely unique to this figure. They're not just computer gear, they're also wearable. The custom box charger doubles as a computer monitor. Jojobs has a bunch of inside joke graphics, and overall it's just one of those figures that has a lot going for it that's done really well in a way that feels complete but not excessive. 5 out of 5. JoJo is of course the original 5cm Beast Box. While its design is arguably dated, its transformation is pretty easy and well executed. 3 out of 5. Again, in spite of being a very early Beast Box release, its articulation is very well done. Jojobs doesn't have a movable jaw or articulated fingers like its descendant Neo Geo, but it absolutely has perfectly caricatured gorilla proportions. It can get in the correct poses, and in spite of having a tiny lower half and a huge chest and forearms, it's pretty well balanced. 4 out of 5. It's built with good quality plastic. While it doesn't feature the higher quality engineering from later releases, it's definitely not cheap. 3 out of 5. I would rate a standard release JoJo as a 3 for its fun factor. It's easy to pose and transform, but that one is a pretty bare bones figure with limited play value. Jojobs, on the other hand, has more ways to interact with it, and in a way works as its own quirky little playset. 5 out of 5. And that brings the box grade total to 25 out of 30. But I'm not done yet. I feel like 5-2 Toys went above and beyond with the pop culture references and inside jokes about information technology, and also packed in so many spot-on features that organically work with this figure that they add to the character. Simply put, Jojobs was executed at a higher than usual level, so it deserves a plus up. So I'm awarding a bonus point to character and features for a final score of 27 out of 30. So there's a look at this year-end 10 on the theme of boxes with jobs, with special guest appearance by Real Steel and its little Joey. And I'll tell you what, doing a recap on all of these figures, plus having an unboxing for Real Steel, which turned out to be an incredibly well done figure, is a great way to wrap up 2025. I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video and all the participation with this channel you've awarded me with this year. Whether through a subscription, leave me a comment, or even just a like. Beast Box collectors may be a relatively small group compared to other transforming figure lines, but through my eyes, it's an enthusiastic community. Boxes with Jobs is of course a pretty minor subset of a pretty diverse line of figure designs. Whether or not you're into this type of redeco, the most important thing is that you enjoy what you have in your collection. I'm looking forward to the new year. It looks like 5-2 Toys is going to put out a strong lineup of awesome figures in the coming months, including an all-new Predator design, an incredible looking new horse named Godspeed, and a triple changer that started off as an April Fool's joke. And of course, I'll have more content that I look forward to sharing with you in the coming months. I hope you have a wonderful new year, and I'll look forward to talking with you again in January. Thanks. Take care.